It is 8 p.m. on the east coast of Australia. It's just after midday here in Brittany. It is time for the Nero Tour spin. Boom. Hey guys, and welcome. We are live. We are live for episode 3. Jump straight into the live chat and pretty much tell us straight off the bat, what was more expensive? Our flights here to Brittany or the entry fee to the Battle of the Border, the next NRS race? It's a pretty close run thing. Guys, we have an absolutely packed show tonight. Obviously the team time trial, the other stages that have been ticking over. Joining me fresh off a Dawn Patrol ride this morning is the man himself, Angus Calder.
Hey Chris, thanks for having me. Good to be back again. Yeah, great ride this morning, good weather, and just seeing off good mate Michael Potter before he heads off to the tour of King High Lake with former teammate Toby Orchard. We actually tried to get Toby on the show, but couldn't quite manage it somehow.
Oxygen saturation levels, we just couldn't nail it down, unfortunately. It's he's very, very tender about that at the moment, unfortunately. But putting Bubble Boy aside for a moment, the racing has been pretty serious. It kicked off with the team time trial. Yeah, so a couple of days ago, obviously, team time trial run and won. BMC taking the win there. One of the hosts here actually picked the winner. There is no record. BMC in first, Sky in second, and then Quick Step running in for third. One thing that I found quite interesting, I mean, I was always expecting Sagan to lose the yellow jersey on this stage. I was expecting BMC or Sky to just blast away and beat Bora by quite a margin. But essentially, Sagan, in reasonably dramatic fashion, actually just seemed to be on a pretty bad day, got dropped by his team. Never seen this before. And it actually looked like he was struggling. I mean, he looked out of breath. He looked really, really tired. And then in all of his post-race interviews, he actually said he was just on a bad day. So very interesting to see that happen to the world champion and also the yellow jersey wearer. So it's, yeah, quite strange to see. But back to the actual riding aspect of it, you noticed a couple of things just in how certain teams ride it. I mean, playing to their strengths, that kind of thing. Gus, I love the team time trial. I absolutely love it. Look, and there's a lot to it. Obviously, the gear, which we'll have a bit of a chat about, but even the way the different teams ride it is so interesting. So if you can hold on that picture for a second there, Luke. A team like Sunweb, with obviously a massively dominant time trialist like Tom Dumoulin, and they used him like that. So there were rumours that he was doing like 11-minute turns on the front, which is like next level. That's Jesse Coyle level, insane, right? Yeah. It's off the charts. So you had that approach, which was successful for them. The other guys were EF Education Drapac, a totally different approach to the race. Now, they had Taylor Finney, a really good, solid time trialist. But what I did want to pick out is Simon Clark. Now, Simon is a top-level pro, but he's not Tom Dumoulin. So what they've done with him, they basically sent him on a burner. And I said this the other night with some of the teams that do this. So for some of you guys who like numbers, there was a bit of, they put some of his stuff up. So the first 5 minutes of the time trial, he did it like 6.5 watts per kilo. So that's pretty insane. That's off the charts, right? And that's not sustainable for like the whole team time trial, but they used him to just get the speed up and go absolutely bananas, which they did, and they did really, really successfully. Also, actually great to see Lawson Craddock actually participating. I thought he might just hang on. But, how he's got Nero bars, I'll never know. Yeah, pretty exceptional there. And the other approach was Quick Step. Yes. So essentially, Quick Step, I mean, they didn't really have a particular standout, very strong time trialist. So it seems what they've done, they all have fairly evenly matched riders in terms of strength and time trialing ability, and that's shown in the way they've ridden it. They basically blasted out of the gates with everyone pulling equal turns. It was like heading down to Centennial Park for the chop. I mean, everyone just working pretty So you've got evenly. 80 guys behind you or watching? Yeah, something like that. Okay, right. And they've obviously worked very, very well together to run in for third. So interesting seeing all of the different approaches for something like that. And then also quite interesting for a time trial day is all of the gear and everything that surrounds it. I mean, what do you see anything interesting? it's kind of interesting to talk about how they ride it, but the really interesting stuff's the gear, obviously, and that's the most interesting part of any time trialing. That little, I actually mentioned this the other day in the vlog with the time trial. This thing has continued. This deep dish front wheel over tri-spoke thing has continued. Now, having said that, the winners, yes, they did run tri-spokes, but most of the other teams were all running deep dish front wheels, which again was really interesting. And I've got a theory that this might have something to do with the tyres that are now being used. So taking that to the next level, having a look at some of the stuff EF Drapac were doing, they were running their new, and you're going to say the brand name for me, Junior.
Which team was it?
Disc wheel. Metricon. No, Vision Metron disc.
Yes.
But here's the thing, right? So they were running tubeless wheels, tubeless tyres. Correct.
Right.
So with sealant, like gravel riding, all the rest of it, running the whole sealant stuff in there, which they basically came out and said was a better marriage for rolling resistance on that disc wheel. We'll see. We'll see if other sort of teams go along with that. The other interesting one here, and this requires a little bit of delving.
Yeah,
and you have delved.
I have. I mean, I find this quite interesting. It requires a reasonable amount of attention to detail, and thankfully, we've got some very great photographers floating around the tour. Beatty McBeard obviously is one of them.
He won't be getting invited back to the tents after these photos.
Yes. So I always find it interesting to see what equipment certain teams choose when their sponsor's equipment is not up to scratch. So they essentially choose what they want as the best. It's great for us consumers because it lets us know what that particular team thinks is the best equipment going around. But I did manage to notice a couple of things. So the first one was Trek Segafredo actually had a rider in a Giro Aerohead. So in the picture up on the screen, you can see most of the riders behind the rider on the front have got Bontrager helmets on, but it seems the actual time trial specialists within the team have been running the Giros lately. They just get the white ones. They've put a couple of Trek stickers on it. That would probably be the most obvious one to spot, I would say. And then the second one actually is not so much just an individual or one or two, is actually an entire team, but a whole team, all of Movistar are running cask Bambinos, which is quite interesting. I mean, there are a couple of little details that gave it away, but I saw a close-up picture of Quintana from Beatty, and I just had a thought in my head. They had very nice leather strap underneath the helmet. I thought, gee, I really thought that was unique to cask, and I would actually be right.
It was so unique to cask that it is cask.
I would in fact be right. It is a cask Bambino. They've even got the little dots on top of the visor there that give it away. So very interesting. That's probably the hardest one to spot, I would say.
That's a good get. I'll give you that.
But yeah, they've painted them very nicely to make it look like an Avis helmet, which is quite interesting to say the least.
So the team time trial, run and won. For me, it's a win. It should always be in the tour. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty exciting stage. I mean, it does give a bit of an advantage to those teams that are a bit more well-drilled, a bit bigger budget with stronger teams. However, it does add an extra element of something you have to prepare for. It makes more sort of, I mean, the winner of the tour is supposed to be an incredibly well-rounded rider, and I think it adds another element.
I agree. 100% agree. 100% agree. Keep the comments going, guys. Robbie's here helping us out.
We've got Brandon as well, just pointing out that Mitchelton Scott were running the lightweight Autobahns, so they were not running pro disc wheels. They are sponsored by Shimano and Pro. They were running lightweights, which is actually, it's the lightest disc wheel, I believe. It's widely known as the fastest wheel. But obviously not sponsor correct, so another one for you there. So you get three little instances.
Solid budget upgrade if they're running the lightweight disc.
Yes.
Now moving on, guys. Stage 4. Actually, I'll hand over to yourself for stage 4.
Yeah. So essentially,
halfway through it.
Yeah. I mean, stage 4 is another sprint stage. Obviously won by Fernando Gaviria. But interestingly enough, another procession for the breakaway. They basically just handed in their tickets at mid-1. And,
Shall we? Yes, we shall.
They went into the breakaway. So much to Chris's dismay.
I'm going to try that at Nero.
Yeah, I go for your life. I'm not really sure it's gonna work out quite that easily. But on a stage like this, I mean, everyone pretty much will just look at one team to do most of the work, and that was Quick Step. They've got the fastest sprinter in the race. And they're also the best team in regards to a bunch sprint, organising a lead out, that kind of thing. So the burden of the chase for the breakaway rested on their shoulders, and they duly delivered, chased the breakdown, and set Kaviri up for a win in a fairly close finish with Sagan, and also pretty awesome to see Andre Greipel right back up in the top of the A-grade sprinters, which is pretty awesome, yeah.
Quick off-run sheet question. He's off contract at the end of the year.
Yes.
Does he have to win a stage?
Well, I would say maybe not necessarily win a stage, but if he can be very consistent up in that sort of podium kind of region, that would definitely help. But I mean, nothing helps quite as much as a win does. Maybe we'll see him. Maybe we'll see him repeat on the Champs-Élysées.
We'll be cheering him. Hold that shot there, Luke. So I do want to talk about this. As you guys know, I am a sprint expert, and I'm now going to critique one of the world's best sprinters leadouts. So this is not going to go well. No, look, guys, I just wanted to quickly pick this out. I do find myself watching a little bit, especially when Mark Renshaw and Cav are racing the overhead shot, because it's normally pretty cool watching the way these guys work together. They're a pretty cool partnership, right? So I was watching a little bit. So you're going to have to go back a couple of shots, Luke. Yep, there we go. So the guys are in a pretty good position here. You can see that what's actually happening here is that's Mark Renshaw on the front. So you could probably guess at this stage he's probably doing 800 watts or something. His big trick is that he can do like 1,000 watts for a minute or something outrageous like that. So that's him in that position. Now what you'll then find is that, so he comes back, you can see Mark Renshaw has now dropped back, and interestingly here, hold this shot, Cav actually lets Renshaw in, okay? So lets him come in front of him. So Renshaw's now sitting there on Sagan's wheel. Now, normally, okay, you would think that's okay, but let's not forget, Mark Renshaw has just done a 30-second turn on the front.
It's one of those rules of racing is don't jump on the wheel of someone who's just done a turn or just come back from a breakaway. And here we have Cav jumping straight on Mark Renshaw fresh off the front. Have
a look at the vlog of me being dropped. That's a lot of vlogs. But anyway, and you'll see. So now the next one, this is a good shot. So Renshaw, oh, look, he's dropped Sagan's wheel. Why? Because he's gassed. Now, what does dropping Sagan's wheel do to Cav and pretty much all the sprinters on Cav's wheel? If we can step one more along, Luke. Well, there's the winner. He's at the top of the shot in front of Peter Sagan. And Cav is, well, you can forget about it at this point.
He's put the handbrake on well and truly. He's going out the back door at a rate of knots.
So there will be no winners coming from that separation. I just really wanted to pick that one out because that to me was, I don't know whether it was a discussion beforehand or how that sort of played out, but I'm surprised Cav let him in on his wheel to be in at the end of the day.
Yeah, quite. You could say a rookie error, but it's very easy to critique from the armchair where these guys are racing in the Tour, biggest stage in the world at 190 BPM. It's very easy to nitpick these guys.
And that is the last time I will ever comment on the sprint.
Speaking of rookie errors,
yes.
I mean, what other way would there be to avoid things like this than to have someone in your ear? I mean,
good segue. So look, this was not a particularly interesting stage. Let's be honest. To sit down and watch this is not going to be that fascinating. And I always kind of think about, well, how can we make this a little bit better? So formulaic, right? Like, so break gets a little bit of space, bunch catches it, right, with 2Ks to go, perfect, right? Absolutely happy days. But from my perspective, if you took that little bit of communication away from the riders, race radios, took that communication away from the riders, forced them to actually do a lot more thinking on the road, maybe more things would happen and maybe a little bit more sort of magic might happen. At the moment, these guys like have the DSs in their ear. The DSs are sitting in the cars, watching the friggin' stage. It's like you can call the shots down to a T. If the guys had to drop back to the car, oh, what, the brake's gonna have to 4 minutes. Oh, hang on, last time we were here it was only 3 minutes. So that kind of stuff might just allow for a little bit more natural stuff to play out on the road.
Possibly a bit more excitement. Also very interesting to see how much the radios actually mean for the riders. Cav had a bit of radio issue today. He tried to get it serviced or fixed, whatever, by his DS inside the car. and they actually dropped it. Dropped it out of his jersey, bounced along the ground into a ditch, and Cav actually stopped, jumped off his bike, as you can see there, and climbed into the ditch to go and retrieve it. So
that says so much, though, doesn't it? Like, got off the bike.
I actually stopped, climbed into a ditch. He didn't. Yeah, it obviously means a lot to him. So I think if the riders are going to that extent to have radios, I don't think they're going to be leaving without a bit of a fight, I would say.
I think you're right. Now we promised you a segment this evening. We're going to attempt an actual real life segment. Now, this man has two main talents in life. The first of which is to wrangle marsupials on some of Sydney's roads. The second is to trawl through the depths of the internet comments sections. And this evening we will be using him for his second skill in life. I give you Mr. Angus Wilson. Angus, welcome.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank God you're wearing pants.
Yeah.
It's just hit midday in sunny France. To our French viewers, bonjour, and over here, good evening, as the French say, bonsoir.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's my value add this evening. Bit of cultural mix it up.
You've lost me in translation. Now, what has been going on online? Is there any controversy happening thus far?
There's always controversy, especially in the comments section of your cycling news and your cycling tips. We've always got some sort of polarizing article. People love to argue about everything and nothing. I wanted to first up talk about Team Sky's controversial skin suits.
The pimples?
The pimples, yeah. They've clearly been lathering on the Clearasil this year, and they've gotten rid of the pimple skin suit. That was pretty interesting. There were a lot of particularly French people who were cranky about this, and a lot of people keen to see that go. Sticking to the Sky thing, we saw Froomey tragically binning it with about 10 Ks to go in the first stage.
Yep.
A lot of people were pretty happy to see him hitting the ground. And in our next photo, we can see that he's ready to challenge Wout van Aert in the for his rainbow stripes. Look out, buddy. Again, sticking with the Sky controversy, we've seen a bit of to and fro between WADA, the ASO. WADA seemingly a bit of a toothless tiger, unable to slap anything. He's like a human Teflon, isn't he? Nothing sticks. Nothing sticks to the guy. A lot of people saying, well, it's just an asthma puffer. What really happens there? Angus, can you please answer your phone? Yes, it's an asthma puffer. He was over the limit, but there's a lot of suspect shit going on there. Am I allowed to say that on?
I think so.
Okay,
we're at adults only time spot now. It's all good.
In our next photo, we've got
Now I missed this one.
So there was a big controversy about the sudden backflip. Rumours flying about David Brailsford bribing the ASO and bribing WADA. We've seen this all before. The whole high profile tends to get done. We saw Diego Elisi. This happened to him. He was caught with a significant amount of salbutamol over the threshold limit. So it seems that the big fish keep swimming. The others are very quickly sidelined. So yeah. My energy levels are outstanding. Thanks for noticing. It must be that 3 p.m. coffee. Our next photo, please, Luke. We have another controversial allegation. These comment threads really spew out the theories of fake news and just in general theories. So Team Sky will use their social media powers to they're like ooh, going the wrong way on the screen. The Team Sky, the big puppets here.
The conspiracy theory stuff with Sky, it's just, it's fascinating.
It is. Especially in the comments section where I think we've heard the armchair, commenting from the armchair Angus dropped earlier in this evening. There's some serious armchair stuff going on. Everyone's a biochemist in the comment thread. Yeah, Joe Whelan, get out of here. Let's hear your thoughts. I know my one of my coaches had some strong feelings about this. He was in the comment sections of a few Facebook articles. That was some good armchair viewing. What's our next photo? We had here we go. You get some varied comments. Cycling News would have to be the most aggressive in terms of people creating fake accounts. Cycling Tips is usually a little bit more measured, a little bit more factual in quoting studies and whatnot. But Cycling Tips, it's like straight for the jugular. So yeah, I think JBS definitely summed it up. Yeah. And then, do I have any more photos after this? I think that's the last one. There was one I read, 4th of July marked the anniversary of USA Cycling's last ever Tour de France win. I was listening to Lance Armstrong's podcast today, actually, while I was supposed to be working, and there are only 5 Americans in this year's tour. You look at past years of your Hincappies, your Armstrongs, your Leipheimers, and they really dominated this sport. And it was funny to see that. Was Lance bemoaning the lack of them? Because I
he
sure
might
was
have
in
a
his
reason to do with that.
His Texan drawl was he was pretty cranky about the lack of Americans in the tour. But yeah, that was. That was about the extent of the social media trawling that I managed to get done.
Well, we will keep an eye on it in coming days and weeks. I'm sure once Froomey, because they were not chance of Froome, they were clearly booze for them.
LeBoo.
Sorry, LeBoo. The further this goes along, clearly, the more it will kick off, especially once his name gets higher and higher up the GC spec as we go along. We haven't actually quite worked out how we're going to do this next change, so we're just going to go ahead and do it.
And no, Toby, it's not a receding hairline. We've got a new team sponsor, Regain. It's actually growing back now. So
I thought we were going to Alpecin.
Alpecin. Oh yeah.
Caffeine hair.
My old man bought a tub of Alpecin hair shampoo.
And on that note, Angus Wilson. So finally, guys, we thought we would swap one Angus in for another, and we'll have a quick chat about Stage 5. We are in the heart of Brittany. We're finishing here this evening.
Yes, we are.
Incredibly.
I'll try and keep this one fairly short. I mean, Toby's weighed in before. He says his pick for this stage is Michael Matthews. I mean, you've got a fairly short, punchy, hilly stage up tonight. I mean, you'd be looking for all of the Ardennes specialists.
Yep.
Those sorts of guys are likely to be the ones winning here. One thing that's quite interesting, there are in fact bonus seconds. So there's a bonus seconds sort of cluster at the top of one of the climbs with about 23 k's to go.
Yeah.
3, 2, and 1 seconds. And then you also have bonus seconds on the finish line. I think it's 10, 6, 4, 1, something along those lines. And you have a couple of quick step riders very close to Van Avermaet on GC. Okay. So it'd be quite interesting to see guys like Gilbert, Alaphilippe, who are sitting at I think 5 and 7 seconds respectively, could actually make up that deficit and overhaul Van Avermaet to get themselves into the yellow jersey. So you might actually see the yellow jersey back on the shoulders of a quick step rider, someone different to Gaviria this time, which is quite interesting.
Van Avermaet doesn't attempt to give TJ the jersey in a
ceremonial
team act
sense. I mean, that's something you can come into the comments with, because I'm not entirely sure on that one. I mean, I think Van Avermaet trying to hand over the jersey to TJ might backfire and actually not have the jersey in BMC. I think if they really want to keep it within the team, Van Avermaet's better off trying to defend it. He's going to have to be up the top there. I mean, he's no slouch on these kinds of things. He's one of the best classics riders in the world.
Yep.
I think that's going to be their best hope. And I mean, it looks like it's going to come down to some kind of an uphill sprint, something very like a small group kind of thing is what I'll be expecting. And Van Avermaet's always very good in the end of these sort of long, hard races, small bunch finishes up climb. So
it sounds like it's going to be a pretty tough stage. It doesn't sound like the type of finish that you could kind of orchestrate. You know, oh, here you go, mate. You have a one.
It's harder. It's not quite as simple as that. And Brandon's waiting here as well, saying that BMC wouldn't mind that. I mean, that's also a great point. They wouldn't mind actually just letting the jersey go, because it means that the responsibilities of defending fall on someone else. And the whole first week and a half before you really hit the mountains, it's not really what they want to be doing. They don't want to be burning up guys defending a yellow jersey before they get to the mountains and they've run out of guys. So
true.
Also possible that they will purposely relinquish the yellow jersey. That is also quite a possibility.
Have we, guys, any particular questions you would like us to, Robbie, did you spot anything there that we should try and highlight? I did notice that Alexi was asking what Gabrielle will be cooking this evening. I would suggest it will be something covered in garlic and cream and fried. That seems to be all he ever does. The bow update is happening. I officially have contact with the man himself. I even have an address. Not that that's necessarily relevant in this space, but
what
anyway,
a development.
It is. It's pretty exciting.
One thing I would like as well, for people to jump into the comments with as well, is I was having a discussion as to whether or not Adam Yates can last the distance.
Yes.
So he's obviously, his brother came very close at the Giro, but catastrophically exploded right at the end there. It'd be interesting to see how he goes. I mean, he's placed 4th here before, so he can go 3 weeks, but he's stepped it up a notch. So it'd be interesting to see if he goes up, and other guys like Dumoulin, who's right up the top in terms of the GC contenders at the moment. He didn't lose any time. He did a fairly good TTT, but he's done the Giro.
Yes.
So, and he's not quite as strong as Froome is. He's a very similar rider, but not quite the same level. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys think as to whether or not Adam Yates and Dumoulin have a realistic chance of actually smacking it all the way through to Paris. Can they go the whole 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, the feeling from my perspective is the competition has improved. He was going to be struggling in that department. I did just notice that Blake was asking about the best kit. In terms of the team time trial, definitely I am slightly biased in this, but Lotto Jumbo looked absolutely superb in their Bianchi outfits. By a million miles, the worst was, what in God's name was that aero helmet that Mitchell and Scott were running? I don't know.
They've just carved out some watermelons and popped them straight on their heads.
That,
I mean, doesn't...
that is a situation where, like we said before, you don't want to run your sponsor's gear. That's a moment to say, no, thank you. We'll run something else.
To answer Manly Waringa's question, there is only one man you can go to for income protection, and that's Mr. Dan Corbett. Any questions, just jump on to komfinancialadvice.com.au and he'll sort you out.
Tom and Joe asked, American domestic riding is very different discipline to tour riding. Do you think this affects their selection, the American selection?
American domestic riding. Interesting. I mean...
look, no. To be honest, I mean, we're in a very similar position here in the sense that the domestic scene is nothing like what happens in Europe.
That being said, I mean, the US scene is much stronger than the Australian scene is. I imagine, though, that the teams with American riders have picked their riders based off their European riding. They haven't... I mean, obviously, TJ going back to race the Tour of California, which he placed 2nd in and won the time trial, is more of like an indicator of form rather than him actually sort of racing against the same sort of people and proving himself against other people. It's more just to get some racing form and prove that he is, in fact, strong. But American racing versus European racing, especially Grand Tour racing, completely different ball game. So I think they would have picked, all the World Tour squads will have picked their riders based off their European block. So I know that someone like Lawson Craddock, for example, wouldn't have been picked off any kind of US results that he's had. It would have been picked off things like his, I think it was Liège-Bastogne-Liège in the breakaway all day, hung on to place 9th, things like that.
Yeah.
That's where the selection will be coming from.
But, you know, this is obviously quite a separate conversation that can go on for hours, but
Yes.
like there are a lot more Australians at the tour, and, you know, you could definitely say that the domestic racing here is nowhere near as good as it is in the US. Maybe the exposure the guys are getting in Asia, maybe, I wouldn't necessarily believe that, but that could be something. And obviously maybe the governing body itself. I mean, we definitely go for more of a track program straight off the bat, especially at a youth age. Is that paying dividends? Good question. I think we will we'll wrap it up, guys. Yeah. Awesome. Delighted you guys could join us. We are. Am I going to say this out loud, Luke? Okay, I'm going to say this out loud.
You can't start and then not finish.
I'm going to say this out loud. We are going to try and take this on the road. Oh, God. Yeah, so we're going to be in Melbourne this weekend. We're going to attempt to do this from there. Robbie's shaking his head. We'll probably be shaking heads.
Good luck. I won't be there, but I will be watching. I'd like to see how you guys do.
Well, at least one person will be watching that particular train wreck unfold. So that will be Friday. It will be 8 p.m, we think. And obviously, not many people answered my question about the comparison of pricing between the flights here and Battle of the Border. It was Battle of the Border. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. Thank you, Angus.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Angus. He gave a thumbs up. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Luke. We will see you on Friday, guys. Out.